Dr. Holano sat in his living room, a Debussy record cranked loud on the turntable. A cold plate of dinner sat upon the teak table in front of him. A bowl of tortilla soup and several tamales on a plate. He reached for the cup of poppy tea on the side table, taking a swill, followed by an odd slurp of wine. Suddenly there came an abrupt thundering knock on the front door of the mansion. Subasa's blood went ice cold, the nerves in his arms seizing, the sound striking a chord of fear through his heart. He rose, knees turning to jelly. He was just drunk enough to handle this, he felt, for he had never been a man for firearms. Hand trembling, he slowly unlatched the deadbolt, engaging the handle and opening the door. In the background, the record skipped on the turntable, the needle wearing a hole into the groove. There, standing upon the porch, was the man from the film, skin weathered by the sun, adorned in white paint, and carrying a spear and small leather satchel. A dark wind tore through the cold desert night, his hair dancing in a slowly growing breeze. Tsubasa somehow muttered to burst out, "What do you want me to do?" The shaman pointed toward the cockroach cage. Willingly, Tsubasa opened the door ajar, waving the man in from the growing fury of the coming storm. He led the elder into the den, heart quivering. He collapsed upon the couch, feeling faint and utterly terrified. The old one looked at him, then smiled. Slowly he made his way toward the cockroach aquarium, removing the lid and reaching into his satchel. From within it he produced an unknown organic-looking powder. Without hesitation, he began to pour it atop the cockroaches. Tsubasa's eyes felt as if they were jutting out of his skull as the cockroaches began to suddenly melt before his very eyes, the powder slowly washing over the cockroaches like foam from the ocean waves, a slight high-frequency squeal being emitted as they came to a halt after several more minutes. In bewilderment, Tsubasa watched the elder slowly reach into the cage, producing a beautifully designed cherrywood box. He placed it upon the table in front of Tsubasa, the record still running in a loop, crackling in the background. To Tsubasa's horror, the elder turned to Sheila's cage, removing the lid and without hesitation, picking her up and ripping her body in half. Holding her abdomen, he began to peel it open like an egg, a white goo running down his hand. To Tsubasa's baffled horror, he produced a skeleton key from within, wiping the goop on his loincloth and placing it next to the cherrywood box. Tsubasa found the strength to speak. "Where did you come from?" The elder smiled, his ivory white teeth flashing in the reflection of the lamplight. He pointed to the box, then turned, slowly making his way toward the door. What is this all about? Where are you going?" Tsubasa burst out. The elder let out a booming, guttural laugh, engaging the doorknob. The door slamming behind him, washed out into the night. There came an eerie silence. Tsubasa noticed the storm had dulled, yet the crickets were silent. Suddenly there came an unforeseen hammering of sound about a half-mile down the road, accompanied by a flash of purple light in the sky, which danced across the windows of the mansion. Subasa's adrenaline having peaked, took a giant swill of his tea, finishing it and slowly making his way toward the cellar for a fresh bottle. Returning to the couch after disengaging the needle on the turntable, he poured himself a tall slurp, lighting a cigarette and staring at the intricately designed cherry wood box and the skeleton key, the keyhole beckoning his curiosity. He took a swill of wine, flushing it between his teeth and swallowing, raising the cigarette filter to his lips and taking a long pull, exhaling through his nostrils. Without further restraint, he picked up the key and engaged it in the keyhole of the box, stupefied as to how the cockroaches had dissolved in such an obtruse form. Raising the lid of the box, Tsubasa was surprised to see yet another stone, this time one with a flat face containing moving images. There upon the screen, the megaplanet revealed itself as vividly as it did on the 16mm dream reels, yet in a higher resolution. To the touch it felt cold. Tsubasa felt a wave of euphoria tap dance up his spine. This, he thought, was the mother lode. So many years believing, never losing his vision, while the many equated him to nothing more than an immigrant lush with a penchant for psychedelics and an association with dope-smoking hippies, among which he was an underground icon. There came the slow shuffling of feet, Gustavo appearing from his lair, rubbing his eyes and adjusting to the light. Just me, or did I hear an explosion? I thought I must have been dreaming. Tsubasa managed to make a half smirk before remarking, "That's just the tip of the iceberg, you old badger. Come see." Gustavo made his way into the den, sitting down at Tsubasa's side, reaching for a pack of Lucky Strikes in his Pendleton bathrobe. His eyes finally having adjusted to the light and the crud gone from them, he gazed into the stone, a look of sheer disbelief coming over him in a swift wave. He blurted out, "What in God's name is that?" Tsubasa chuckled, ashing his cigarette. "I'm not quite certain, but I feel as if I have unlocked a hole in the universe." The planet gleamed upon the stone in all its celestial wonder, a truly otherworldly display, leaving the two speechless. Several minutes of silence passed between them until Gustavo piped up, "You know, someone, somehow, is going to come looking for this thing. I told you what I heard at the market. Don't be a fool, Tsubasa." Tsubasa nodded. "I think most likely they will hit the compound within the next several days, if not by morning. Yet the other token has been prepared and is safe for now. I have plans for where I would like to relocate the stones. Tonight I will store this stone in its box, wrapped up within the drapes in the dining room."